Is it possible to live by one sentence of truth, just one, to lean on it when the sky darkens, to rest on it when the mind starts to hunt, to prove it in the midst of your day, and to stop roaming the countryside for 99 others? Yes. Yes. Is it possible that one statement, rightly understood and faithfully practiced until it becomes your very consciousness, could heal your life and reorder it without your chasing more? Yes. It is not only possible, it is the way. Now look around at our time, at what we have fashioned in the name of spirituality. Crowded shelves, competing vocabularies, technique upon technique, breath stacked on mantra, stacked on affirmation, workshops layered on podcasts, layered on pilgrimages. And still, the heart keeps the same beat of strain, the forehead the same wrinkle of worry. Why? Because the old, respectable, getting mind has put on religious clothes and gone shopping. It is still trying to acquire certainty as a possession, to collect truths like rare coins, to hold safety like an insurance policy. That is humanness. That is getting. And getting, however pious, never heals. Never. It merely organizes fear. Now let us for a minute accept the statement that ends the hunt. Truth is not a collection. Truth is one. Truth cannot be multiplied, and it cannot be divided. If it could be multiplied, you might be richer with your stack of statements than I with my one. But truth is not arithmetic. It is being. It is source. And if truth is one, then one statement of truth, just one, contains the whole of it as surely as the ocean lives complete in a drop. Not because the words are magic, but because the reality to which they point is indivisible. When you consent to that reality, not to many words, but to the one, it begins to be your consciousness. And consciousness is the law. Consciousness is the cause. Your first reaction is, "But I don't know enough. I forget. I haven't read as much as others." That's not true. There isn't anybody within range of my voice who does not already know one true thing. One. I and the Father are one. Or, God is spirit. Or, all that the Father hath is mine. You know at least one of these, not as a slogan you saw on a page, but as a bell that has rung in you. The only necessary thing is the willingness to practice it. Practice it until it ceases to be a sentence and becomes your state. Don't say, "If only I had 99 more, I would be safer." No, no. Safety is not in the number. Safety is in the oneness realized. All right, here is our way. We will not add to our pile. We will place before ourselves 3 candidate sentences, 3, not to compare like recipes, but to ask which one we will live, which one we will submit to as law. Then we will choose, not by preference, by consent. And we will prove it, not by arranging outer effects, but by letting the inner light shape the day. If truth is one, then one sentence, rightly lived, must be enough. Let us accept that, and let us begin. Now let us look straight at the mechanism that keeps us busy and barren at the same time. It is called humanness. It is called getting. Always on the lookout for one more thing to add to ourselves, one more idea, one more method, one more teacher, one more assurance, turning even prayer into an acquisition project. Oh God, give me health, give me money, give me protection, give me a sign. That is humanness. That is getting. And getting never heals. Never. It only shifts the weight from one shoulder to the other and calls it progress. Watch how it runs its list. Get health, get money, get love, get safety, get approval, get a name, get an office, get spiritual power, get gifts, get followers, get access, get a blessing, get a mantle, get a secret method, connive, plot, plan, scheme, respectably, of course. Join a circle, buy the course, repeat the formula, accumulate the quotes, paste them on the mirror, memorize them for the meeting. And then what? The same competition beneath it. Who knows more? Who gets there first? Who has the better teacher? Who has the stronger treatment? Fear under the smile, fear under the robe, fear under the title. It is all humanness, or getting. Your first reaction is, but if I had one more book, one more retreat, one more treatment, one more affirmation, it would finally break through. No, that is not spirituality. That is superstition. That is leaning on amulets made of print and calendars. The human mind wants 99 truths because it believes safety increases by arithmetic. More words, more power. More techniques, more certainty. But truth is not arithmetic. Truth is one. And dependency on externals, even religious externals, remains dependency. It is the same old begging with new vocabulary. Now do not forget this, because it is law. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Every effect in your life is the product of your consciousness. Therefore, if you collect statements without consenting to be changed, you have added nothing. You can stack 100 sentences and still wake up to the same bills, the same symptoms, the same argument at the breakfast table, because the cause is untouched. You may recite "God is love" and still resent your neighbor. You may shout "all is spirit" and still fear germs. You may affirm "supply is infinite" and still hate your competitor. And in the degree that fear and hate and envy remain, they must externalize. They must. You don't remove evil by chasing its forms. You transform the sense in which they seem to be, and then the forms have no law to sustain them. All right. What then is the spiritual way? Not more knowing about truth, but being of truth. Not adding sentences, but yielding to one until it lives in you and you in it. That is the shift, from getting to giving, from acquiring to consenting, from seeking effects to resting in cause. One sentence, rightly practiced, stops you from trying to pull life to yourself and makes you the place life pours forth. Any single true sentence can be the doorway, any, if you will sit quietly, refuse the hunt, and let it become your consciousness. Then, without struggle, the picture begins to change, because the center has changed. And that, my friends, is healing. All right. Now let us place before ourselves, not as ornaments, not as slogans for a wall, but as laws by which to live, 3 sentences. And the test, mark it well, is not which one sounds prettier to your ear, not which one fits your temperament or your theology. The test is simply this. Which one will you practice without reservation until it ceases to be a sentence and becomes your consciousness? Because practice is the entire requirement. Not 90%, 100. If you take it as medicine to get an effect, you have stayed in getting. But if you yield to it as law, you have passed from getting to being. Candidate A. I and the Father are one. Identity. Now, if that is true, and it is law, then separation is the only lie left in the room. Fear feeds on separation. Guilt feeds on separation. The whole market of worry is priced on the assumption that you are an orphan in a dangerous universe. I and the Father are one erases the orphan. It says, in the language of being, God and I are indivisible life, and in that oneness, there is no room for a second power to threaten, to tempt, to deprive. Live it, and watch what happens to fear. It has no atmosphere to breathe. Candidate B. All that the Father hath is mine. Supply. If God is the source and scope of your being, then all sufficiency is already present as the withinness of your own life. Not as coins in a drawer, not as a human promise, but as the infinite capacity of being to appear as whatever is needed, when and as. Live this, and you will discover that grasping becomes impossible. Competition loses its bite. You do not run to get, you stand to give. Why? Because you cannot add to what is already infinite, already mine. Candidate C. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Causation. This is method. It refuses to run around chasing pictures. It insists that the only place to work is within. Change the state, and the picture must conform to the state because effects have no independent law of their own. All right. Accept this, and you stop blaming weather, germs, bosses, neighbors, markets. You address consciousness. You purify the spring, and the stream clears. Now see how they interlock. If A is realized, oneness, then B is unavoidable. The fullness of God is the fullness of you. So sufficiency is native. When sufficiency is realized, the mind quiets. The heart stops bargaining. That stillness is the very condition of C, consciousness governing effects, because a stable center pours forth a stable form. Identity reveals supply. Supply stabilizes consciousness. Consciousness governs effects. But remember, because truth is one, any one of these, lived to the end, contains the whole. Identity fully realized cannot lack supply. True supply dissolves fear and proves oneness. And when consciousness is known as cause, you are already in union with Source. Therefore choose. Not tomorrow. Not when the next book arrives. Choose one sentence and submit to it as law. At the breakfast table, at the desk, in the night watch, until it lives you. Then the one will do its own proving. Now let us accept the hard part. Truth is one. Truth cannot be multiplied, and it cannot be divided. If it could be divided, you would have a fragment here and a fragment there, and then, like beggars, we would rush from fragment to fragment, hoping to assemble a whole. No, no. A statement of truth is not a chip broken off reality. It is the whole appearing to you in a form your present capacity can receive. As the ocean is fully ocean in a drop, so the infinite is fully itself in one true sentence, if you will let it be law to you. Do you see how this functions? When did 2 times 2 begin to be 4? Not yesterday. Not when Euclid wrote, not when your teacher drew it on the slate. 2 times 2 has never not been 4. Your learning didn't start the law. Your learning discovered and consented to it. The Wright brothers did not create aerodynamics. They submitted a wing to a law that was already present, and the law bore them up. So in the Spirit, I and the Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. There are no detached outer effects. These are not inventions, not charms. These are names for what eternally is. Our part is not to make them true by saying them. Our part is to be made true by yielding to them. Consent. That is the action. Now, what is meant by enough? Enough is not a warehouse of words. Enough is the one statement you will hold without bargaining. Enough to begin proving. Enough to shift the center of your consciousness from outward chase to inward rest. Enough to end the superstition that more syllables move God. Enough is when you stop multiplying sentences to bully the universe, and you let one sentence still you until the universe finds you. In that stillness, your treatment is not a plea. It is recognition. And I must correct you gently but firmly here, because this is where we lose the way. If a treatment seems to fail, it is not because you lacked 98 auxiliary declarations. That's not true. It is because the mind did not yield, did not rest, did not consent. The lips moved, but the heart stayed in the marketplace, counting, comparing, measuring outcomes, timing delivery. Words without consent are noise. One sentence with consent is law. All right. The moment the inner bargaining ceases and the statement becomes your being, without strain, without clock watching, the law reveals itself as effect. Because there are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Change the center, and the circumference must follow. So we will prove this, not by increasing volume, but by deepening agreement. We will take one sentence, not as a slogan pinned to a refrigerator, but as authority enthroned in consciousness. And we will carry it through the very arenas the getting mind fears most. Money and the work of our hands, health and the body, relationships and the ache for approval, world conditions and the throb of fear. We will stay with it until you hear inside that quiet click. Ah, enough. Where the shoulders drop, the breath lengthens, and you know, not hope, that the law is present. Then, without haste, you will watch form answer to consciousness as naturally as a shadow answers to light. All right, we choose. We are not going to drift among phrases like tourists. We are going to live by law. The sentence we choose is this: all that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Why this one? Because it cuts the root of dependence, the root of fear, the root of competition in a single stroke. It does not say, someday mine, if I fast enough, if I network enough, if I hustle enough. It says, already mine, present tense, eternal tense, because it is speaking of source, not of channels. Now, do not picture a person in the sky. Father here means source. The infinity that is the life, mind, substance, and law of your being. God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being. If that is true, and it is law, then supply is not your paycheck, not your client list, not your partner, not your reputation, not a body condition. Those are pictures on the surface of the water. Supply is the inner well, the presence that forever flows as form where and as it is needed. And since you are one with your source, tell me, what can any person add to you? Nothing. Nothing. What can any person take from you? Nothing. Nothing. They may appear as a channel today and not tomorrow. That does not touch the well. The well is the Father. The well is within. So we practice, not parroting, not throwing words at conditions like stones at crows. Practice is the turning from external measures and timelines and threats to the inner recognition until the neediness loosens and the mind becomes still. You sit with the bill in your hand, and before you pick up a phone, before you calculate, you turn within, quietly, and you say, "All that the Father hath is mine, already mine." You let the words descend, sentence by sentence, from lips to heart to being, until the shoulders drop and the breath lengthens. Again, "All that the Father hath is mine, already mine." Not to make it so, to recognize what is so. You do the same with the symptom, the email, the empty calendar, the silence from a friend. If God is your source, then what you seek is not outside hunting for you. It is already present within you, pressing to appear as the needed form the moment you stop bargaining and rest in its sufficiency. Now, do not argue with me that this is impractical. But I need the check by Friday. Yes, a human being can't help that urgency. A human being can't help that. But we are not staying in humanness. We are consenting to law. And the law says, "Seek not what you shall eat or drink. Your heavenly Father knoweth." Therefore, we will test this where it screams the loudest: money, health, relationships, the world's fear. We will take our chosen sentence into the marketplace, into the doctor's room, into the kitchen, into the news, and we will prove it, quietly, steadfastly, until the outer picture confesses the inner fact. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Now let us begin the proving. Now we take it where the nerves jump first. Money and the work of our hands. Look at the old way and do not varnish it. The rent date on the calendar, the payroll to meet, the market dipping, the price of fuel rising, and instantly we are off. Scrambling, competing, exaggerating, manipulating, respectably, of course. Padding a promise, shaving a truth, undercutting the other fellow, racing the other salesman to the client's door, refreshing the inbox as if it were a slot machine. That is humanness. That is getting dressed up as necessity, and it breeds the same offspring every time. Strain, fear, rivalry, a little shame you try to ignore when you look in the mirror. All right, now the treatment. The very first twitch of fear, before you send the email, before you recalculate the figures, turn within, quietly, and say, "All that the Father hath is mine, already mine." Don't throw it like a stone, let it descend. Wait until you feel the shift from depending on the employer, the client, the economy, to depending on source. Let it be law. If God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being, then my supply is not out there to be chased. It is the well within appearing as forms, this channel today, another tomorrow. If a channel closes, tell me what has been taken from you. Nothing. Nothing. The well is the Father. The well remains. Now watch what that recognition does to your hands. It frees them to give. When supply is known as infinite, you can cast your bread upon the waters without fear. Money, in whatever measure, is honest, yes, but also service, honesty, courtesy, forgiveness. The evidence that you know you are supplied is that you are no longer grabbing, you are giving. In business, that means this: you do not run to beat the other salesman to the door. Your own cannot be taken from you. You do not make false representations, no inflated delivery dates, no quiet omissions of known defects, no trick guarantees to hook a signature. You tell the truth, and you add what service love prompts. If the order is not right for the buyer, you let it go in peace. Why? because the sale is not your supply. Consciousness is. As an employee, you stop working to curry favor. You serve the work itself, thorough, punctual, clean, and promotions become effects, not goals. As a proprietor, you pay your bills promptly. You keep your word even when it costs, and you refuse to slander a competitor. This is not idealism. This is law in action. I am rich only in proportion as I can give. Do not turn this into a bargain with God. No. We are not saying, "See, I gave, now pay me back." That is getting in a tuxedo. We are yielding to a state, and in that state the picture rearranges naturally. The right idea surfaces at 3 a.m. An unnecessary expense quietly falls away. The forgotten client calls. The introduction appears. The schedule opens. Even a layoff becomes redirection, not ruin. Why? There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Like answers to like, my own shall come to me. So we work, hands busy, heart still. We stop the inner hurrying while we keep outward faithfulness. We let the sentence govern the day. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Then we prove it by casting bread in small ways and large. An honest price, an extra hour for a colleague, the coin, the prayer, the quiet forgiveness, and we watch how channels multiply when fear no longer dams the stream. In the degree that you recognize supply as inner source, work becomes the sacrament of giving, and provision follows consciousness with the steadiness of sunrise. You will know it is law by the mark it leaves, the absence of strain. My own shall come to me, and it will, because it must. Now we come where the nerves are raw. Health. The body whispers, then shouts, and at once the old getting mind is at the counter. Buy this, try that, rush here, bargain there. Respectable panic dressed as prudence. The symptom becomes a salesman, and we sign anything it puts before us. More fear, more vigilance, more self-surveillance, and the bill is the same. Strain. All right, let us bring the same law we have placed over money and work and place it here without apology. The sentence does not shrink because the arena is louder. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. If Father means source, and it does, then what is it that the Father hath? Life, wholeness, harmony, the substance of being itself. Not tomorrow, not after ritual or record, already. If God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being, then tell me what I must get from outside to be whole. Nothing. Nothing. What tonic, what praise, what number on a chart can add life to life? It cannot. The body is not the warehouse of life. The body is the instrument through which life plays. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Therefore, health, which is the rhythm of harmony, appears in the degree that consciousness yields from fear and taking to sufficiency and being. Your objection comes fast. But the body is screaming. Yes, yes. A human being can't help that reaction. A human being can't help that. And now, mark this, now is the moment you need one truth, not 99. One. Not a scramble of phrases. One center. Sit down, even for 3 minutes, and close the marketplace. Refuse mental pictures. Refuse the parade of what-ifs. Do not fight the symptom and do not dramatize it. Consent. Quietly, steadily. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Let the words descend from the lips to the heart to the still place beneath thinking. Be still and know. Consent that life, not matter, not chemistry, not fear, is the substance of your being. Let the mind become so quiet that it is no longer manufacturing a weather of fear for the body to wear. In that stillness, you are not trying to get health. You are recognizing life. You are not pleading with God. You are agreeing with God. And as agreement deepens, atmosphere changes. The temperature of fear lowers. The nervous imagination stops throwing pictures on the screen. Sometimes you will feel the inner click at once. Sometimes you will sit again and again until the shoulders drop and the breath finds its slow rhythm. That is the work. From that center, the form will take care of itself, as form must, because effects have no mind separate from cause. How will it appear? As ease where there was tightness, as clarity where there was guessing, as right action without strain, rest, counsel, skillful hands, proper means, as channels of the one life. The law does not restrict channels. It governs source. And the mark that you are under law is not fireworks. It is the absence of fear. Do not forget this. The moment you stop getting health, you begin expressing life. When you are no longer using the body as a scoreboard of fear, life uses the body as its instrument of praise. God is the health of my countenance, not will be, is. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Stay there, consent there, and watch how harmony, having found a quiet center, draws its own forms to itself, because it cannot do otherwise. Now we come to the arena that seems the most personal, and therefore the most excused. Relationships. Here the getting mind wears perfume and calls itself romance, loyalty, family duty. But listen to its shopping list, and you will hear the old hunger. Get attention, get reassurance, get loyalty, get apology, get constant proof. Make them answer quickly. Make them remember dates, read your mind, mirror your need. And when they do not, call it betrayal and demand payment with interest. Coldness, silence, little punishments. That is humanness. That is getting, dressed as love. And it never heals. Never. It turns people into supply stations and then condemns them when the pump is empty a day. All right, the sentence does not change because the subject is tender. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. If Father means source, and it does, then companionship, worth, recognition, tenderness are not hostages to another's mood, calendar, or childhood. They are qualities of being. They are of God. And if God is the source of my being and the infinity of my being, tell me, what can any person add to me? Nothing. Nothing. What can any person take from me? Nothing. Nothing. Since I am one with my source, nothing can be added and nothing subtracted. Then what is a friend, a spouse, a child, a colleague? A channel, today this one, tomorrow another, through which the one love appears. The channel is not the well. The well is the Father. The well is within. Call no man on earth your source of love. Now mark the shift. Humanness says, what are you giving me? Spirit says, what can I give? The very moment you do not need to get love, you can give love. And giving is not a performance, it is the natural outflow of sufficiency. Practice it. Before you send the baiting text, before you rehearse the speech that will force an apology, sit down 2 minutes and let the sentence descend. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Wait until the ache loosens and the breath lengthens. Then act from the well. Patience without a stopwatch, listening without preparing a counterargument, honest speech without the barb, forgiveness without the ledger. No transaction underneath, no silent price tag. You are no longer using people as supply, so manipulation becomes impossible. And because there are no detached outer effects, all flows forth from consciousness. This inner rest will externalize as kinder tones, fewer quarrels, effortless silences, simple joys that do not demand a photograph to prove they occurred. But remember, do not do this to get a result from them. No, no. That would return you to getting. You do it because law is your center. Set your expectation on law, not on people. Some relationships will blossom under the warmth of non-demand. Some will fall away because they depended on your old bargains. Let them. You do not fall away because your source remains intact. The loneliness you fear is the shadow cast by a false premise. In union with the companion within, you cannot be companionless. My own shall come to me, friends, helpers, right fellowships, because likeness answers to likeness, and love finds its forms. So we stand here. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. And in that sufficiency, we stop getting love and become the place love flows from, casting our bread upon the waters with no eye on the shore, certain that what goes out from God returns in God's ways. And that is enough. Now we widen the circle. It is one thing to stop getting in the home. It is another thing to hold steady when the world shouts. Headlines, sirens, flags at half-mast, markets jerking, speeches with clenched jaws. War there, crime here, the neighbor's yard sign daring you to dislike them. And the getting mind has its old answer. Get safety by force. Get certainty by scapegoat. Get unity by hating a common enemy. Arm your house, arm your words, arm your heart. That is humanness. That is getting. And it never heals. Never. It feeds the very atmosphere that externalizes as the next outrage. All right. The sentence does not bend to the news cycle. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. If Father means source, and it does, then security, peace, guidance are not objects to seize or privileges to defend. They are qualities of the infinite appearing as our life when panic is removed. Since I am one with my source, tell me what any weapon, any faction, any victory can add to the safety that is God. Nothing. Nothing. And tell me what any rumor, any threat, any headline can subtract from it. Nothing. Nothing. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. A fearful people must externalize fear. A hating people must find an enemy. A resting people, resting in God, must externalize order. Now you say, but they are dangerous. They could hurt us. Yes, a human being can't help that first spasm. A human being can't help that. But we are not staying in humanness. We are consenting to law. And the law of nonviolence is not a tactic. It is spiritual law. Refuse to hate. Refuse to fear externals, and you withdraw your contribution to the storm. You take up an inner position that has no opposite in it, and invisible law answers. I tell you, there is a law of God that disarms. Daniel, in him, innocency was found, and that is why the lions could not. That is not history, that is principle. Take my life, but I won't take yours. Don't dramatize it. Don't tattoo it. Let it be your inner vow. It means this: I surrender the right to retaliate in thought. I refuse the rehearsal of murder in imagination. I lay down sarcasm as a weapon. I will not participate in the feast of blame that makes me briefly feel righteous and collectively makes war inevitable. Instead, I go back to the sentence and sit with it while the talking heads whet their knives. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Peace is mine. Safety is mine. Wisdom is mine. Then I act from that center. I vote from love. I speak from love. I correct lies without hatred. I protect the weak without despising the strong. I cast my bread, money, service, prayer, courtesy, upon the waters with no eye on applause. In other words, I work where causation is. Consciousness. Do not argue that this is withdrawal. No. It is the only engagement that heals. We are not asked to fix the world as an outer effect. We are asked to remove fear and hate from the only place they can be, within. And let law do the outer arranging. And law will. You will see it first in small circles. The tone of your table shifts. The neighbor relaxes. A meeting that promised fireworks dissolves into solutions. Do not despise these proofs. They are the seed of larger ones. Inside of 30, 60, 90 days of a people making this inner vow, new ideas pop up in editors' rooms and cabinets. The taste for blood lowers. The moral imagination wakes. Why? Like answers to like. Consciousness is causal. So let us stand here, quietly, seriously, without fists in our pockets, and accept the charge. The world changes as consciousness changes. Nonviolence begins in the refusal to fear and hate externals. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Therefore I cannot be made safer by your loss. I am safe by God. Take my life, but I won't take yours. First in thought, then in word, then in deed, as love requires. And let invisible law do what it always does. Stop the lions, still the winds, reorder the scene to match the peace that has found its center. All right, now how? How do we take one sentence so deeply into consciousness that it ceases to be our words and becomes our state? Practice, yes, but not the practice of accumulation, not recital. Practice here is consent. The sentence is a doorway into stillness. You step through by letting the getting mind yield, and in that yielding, the inner sense of source, present, sufficient, becomes tangible. Not an emotion, not a trance. A quiet knowing that does not ask to be guaranteed. So go home. If necessary, sit up. Close the door of your room and of your mind. Enter the secrecy of your own being and take the sentence gently, not as a charm, but as law. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Say it once, slowly. Then wait. Let the breath lengthen. Let the shoulders drop. Say it again, softer. Wait again. Your work is not to push. Your work is to consent. To let the words sink from lips to heart, from heart to silence. until the sense of needing to manage tomorrow loosens. When you feel the first hint of release, don't rush to cash it in. Rest there. 10 minutes. 15. If you wake at 2 a.m., sit and do it again. Morning and evening, yes. And at any alarm bell in the day. 3 quiet breaths and the one sentence. Consent renewed. You will meet resistances. Of course. A human being can't help that. The mind will argue, but last time it didn't work. It will parade charts, balances, letters, diagnoses. It will rehearse the future. What if? What then? Suppose. Now let that go. Now return. Now return again. Do not fight the thought. Let it float past like a leaf on a stream, and re-enter the sentence. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. If fear surges, do not bargain with it. Return. If pride whispers, I already know this, smile at it and return. The victory is not in winning an argument. The victory is in abiding. Anchor the inner with outward micro-embodiments. Every day, cast a bit of bread upon the waters, not to earn, to confirm. One honest act you could have shaded, tell the truth. One coin or bill given where you usually clutch, give it. One enemy prayed for by name, bless them. One debt forgiven, a small one if you must. One silence kept instead of gossip. One courtesy where none is expected. Penny, nickel, dime. A word, a smile, a service. These are not payments. They are embodiments. Consciousness anchors by being what it knows. How will you measure? Not by visions, not by goose flesh. The sign is release. Less fear, less grasping, less urgency to manipulate a person, a schedule, a headline. More willingness to let law be law. Then, without your clock watching, the outer begins to answer. A call you didn't chase, an opening you didn't engineer, a symptom softening, a quarrel dissolving, an idea arriving whole. Do not pounce on these as proof to hoard. Nod and return to consent. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. So let the center be tended until the circumference has no choice but to follow. Stay with the sentence until it stays with you. Until, mid-sentence of a day's work, you notice it is praying you. The breath is praying you. Peace is having you. That is when the law is enthroned. That is when you discover that one statement, consented to, contains the whole. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. And you will live it because it will be living you. Now let us accept the statement that ends all argument. Christ is not a figure to be admired at a safe distance, not a memory enshrined in stained glass. Christ is a state of consciousness that does not fear externals and does not hate externals because it needs nothing from them. In Christ consciousness, there is no bargaining with the world for life, for safety, for supply, for reputation. There is no enemy to defeat in order to be whole. Greater is he that is within you than he that is in the world. When that is not a verse, but a state, you will know the tone of Christ. Serenity without passivity, authority without aggression, love without demand. Nothing to get, therefore, everything to give. Now listen to our chosen sentence with new ears. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. That is not optimism. That is not the placebo of brave words. That is Christ speaking in you. Your own true identity claiming its source. I and the Father are one is the law behind it. All that the Father hath is mine is the function of it. When that sentence ceases to be a phrase on your lips and becomes the atmosphere of your being, it acts. Quietly, impersonally, lawfully. It reorders your commerce because you are not competing for breath. It calms the body because life is recognized as present. It frees the affections because you are not extracting worth from persons. It lowers the world's temperature at the one place you can touch it, within. There are no detached outer effects. All flows forth from consciousness. Your first reaction may still be, "But I don't know enough truth to be effective." That's not true. There isn't anybody within range of my voice who needs 99 statements to begin. Truth cannot be multiplied, and it cannot be divided. Why? Truth is one. One ray of it, the one you are willing to live, contains the whole light. The only necessary thing is willingness. Willingness to stop getting, to rest in source, to give. Willingness to let the old bargains die. Willingness to sit still and consent until the shoulders drop and the breath becomes prayer without words. That willingness is your ministry. God supplies the power. So this is our closure and our beginning. Choose your one sentence today. Keep it close, in the pocket, on the tongue, beneath the breath. Return to it when the mind runs, when the body shouts, when the world waves its flags. Let your life be the proof, not your notebook. Enough. Enough. One sentence is enough. Not because you know it, but because you live it. And as you live it, you will find what Christ consciousness always finds. Needing nothing from the world, it can give to the world. And giving, it proves the law it rests upon. All that the Father hath is mine, already mine. Be still and know. Then rise and give.